In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Revenge of the Sith Count Dooku. So this is an action figure that I still think is the best Count Dooku 3 3/4 inch action figure we've ever gotten to date. He's my most highly anticipated action figure I want to see in the TVC line. We're way overdue for a Count Dooku update, and it's ridiculous we're almost at 300 action figures now, and we haven't got a new Count Dooku. And there's no reason why we can't get a definitive one now. Well, until then, this one is really good and it's perfect. And even if Hasbro does release a TVC Count Dooku at some point, I still hold this one in high regard. And I would recommend it for any collection. So I do recall at the time, this was one of the most highly sought after and the hardest to find action figures in the Revenge of the Sith line. I think he was action figure number 13. So he was released very early on in the line. And I do recall a lot of collectors saying, oh man, I really want to get him, but I can't find him. But fortunately, at least, he's not too expensive online. I think he was one of those action figures where people just couldn't find him in person, but online he's been plentiful. So interesting little bit about that. Trying to think what else there is to say about him leading into this. I don't have the package, unfortunately, to show you, so... But if you watch my Polis Master review, it's basically the same exact... All the Revenge of the Sith basic figure line packages are the same other than the character art and the figure number, and maybe some of the figures advertised on the back. I can't think of much else I can really say leading into it, but we'll just jump right into the action figure. This is the very first Count Dooku I'm reviewing on the channel as well, at long last. I've been wanting to get the Dooku for a long while now. So I think this is a pretty good likeness to Christopher Lee. He's one of my favorite actors, and I think Hasbro did him a lot of justice here. Paint's not 100% perfect. If you look close enough at his eyes, I have seen some samples out there that do look kind of blotchy. I think mine look okay, but they could be a little bit better. But the sculpting work itself is pretty good. Yeah, his lightsaber doesn't stay in his hand very well. Is the one small drawback about this. If you keep them in place, it stays okay, but if you start moving them around, might be some problems for you. So in terms of the articulation, he does have a swivel head, and there is a purpose to why he only has a swivel head instead of being on a ball joint, and we'll get to that here in a second. He does have hinged shoulders, really good range of motion, hinged elbows, then swivel forearms, I should say. Well, yeah, that's more the forearm. Does have a swivel waist, then swivel hips, then hinged knees, and swivel boots, basically. Not swivel ankles, but there is a swivel at the boot. So pretty good articulation for Count Dooku. In terms of weapons and accessories, very light on it, very basic. So he does come with his lightsaber, which kind of has more of a pinkish color blade. Now I do think there is a variant of this, if I recall correctly. There's one that has a slightly darker red of a blade, and then this one that has more of a pinkish blade. Not 100% sure, but I do think I recall reading something about that. It's not a major variant that it's like, oh, I gotta hunt this one down. Just something to note. Very nice lightsaber hilt. Does not have an unignited hilt at all. And he does come with an environmental display stand. He stands pretty good on his own too. And this is probably one of the more common ones that we got. I know the 501st Trooper came with this, and a lot of the, like Bail Organa and Captain Antilles came with this as well, but they just painted the back of this white. And there's so many other action figures that came with this one. This is more, I think this is kind of based on the Jedi Temple. And you would think that you'd be able to connect them all apart with the way they have these edges cut. But it doesn't seem to be the case. At least all the ones I've had so far, you can't really connect them together. But still, it's really nice. I miss getting these type of stands with action figures. So as I mentioned about the swivel head here, there is a purpose behind that. So, and same thing with the wrist here. I think Hasbro was going for, well, I'll just take this one out since it's so much easier. I think Hasbro was going for the scene-specific incident where Count Dooku met his demise. And let's see here. I don't really want to loosen the joint, but I'll do the best I can with it. So you can put them like that, and then you can take Anakin here from the Revenge of the Sith line, and take Count Dooku's lightsaber, which this Anakin did come with a Dooku lightsaber. And you can reenact that scene. So it's really cool that Hasbro was kind of thinking ahead on that and thinking fans that might actually want that. And if you do pop his head off, you can take his cape off as well, if you want to do that. It looks really good. At some point I might do a diorama with this. And I'll give Anakin his own review at some point too. This joint, it's been loosey-goosey on anyway for this action figure, and since this one seems to be more in place, and same with the neck, I don't want to risk running into that with the other two, like this one. Yeah, he just doesn't want to hold his lightsaber too well. You can always push down on his fingers there and maybe tighten that grip a little more. Sometimes it works. Do something like that. And before we go, I did bring a few of the other Count Dookus I have out, and we can do a comparison. So I think most people would agree these are probably the top 3 Count Dooku action figures we have in the 3 3/4 inch line. And they're all great in their own way, but I still think the Revenge of the Sith one goes down as the best one of the 3 here. This one was released in the Legacy Collection. This one was released during the Attack of the Clones line. And this one's usually pretty easy to get hold of. And while this one, you might have to do some digging a little bit. He comes with one of the Jedi that throws Anakin the green lightsaber in the Geonosis arena. And that one's usually a really expensive action figure to get a hold of. I don't have that one. I got this Dooku loose. And I think I paid maybe like $30 for him. Not the cheapest. The Revenge of Sith Dooku you might be able to find for like $20 or less. And then this one on the left here, the Attack of Clones Dooku, you might be able to find for $15 or less. So they're all for the most part, pretty reasonable. If you really want one, you'll be able to get hold of one. But anyways, I think that's all I can really tell you about this Revenge of the Sith Dooku. He's pretty basic for what he is. Would I recommend him for your collection? If you haven't figured it out by now, of course I would recommend him for your collection. If you can only have one Count Dooku for your collection, I think this is a perfect contender for that one Dooku. I really hope at some point Hasbro does a TVC action figure of him. I'm not going to hold my breath over it though. If we haven't got one by now, who knows? I'm sure they know that fans really want a Dooku, and he usually wins fans' choice votes. I saw one on social media recently where he actually won among like hundreds of action figures. So there's clearly a high demand for Count Dooku. But for the time being, it's still the best Count Dooku you can get. And even if Hasbro does finally get around to doing a TVC Dooku at some point, I still would highly recommend this for your collection. It's very nice, very easy to get hold of for the most part, even though he was the hardest one to find in the wild back in the day. I don't even recall seeing this Dooku at retail at all. But I guess it's just one of those ones where he was abundant online, but you can't really find him in person. But yeah, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for plenty more reviews in the future. There will be lots more to come. And if you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate your support. Check out some of the links in the description as well. Thanks for watching.